Shugo Chara is a deeply problematic work. From its age gap romance to cultural blindness, the series is no stranger to controversy, and yet it remains one of the greatest magical girl series out there. When I heard it was getting a sequel in 2024, I was excited. Perhaps this series would fare better. Jewel Joker follows Amu at a new academy where every character has Shugo Chara, magical fairies that represent your true desires. Normally, these would come from one's heart, as they bear your identity, but at Sei Arcana Academy, Shugo Chara are assigned to children. What does it mean for one's identity to be assigned to them? To give children no say in their own futures. And that's when it hit me that Shugo Chara is a story about how we treat children, that the institution is always suspect, and that on the journey to self-actualization, institutions often stand in the way. In the first series, adults' power over children was a major opposing force, and so it makes sense to set its sequel at a boarding school. Jewel Joker is set at Sei Arcana Academy, an elite boarding school where children are assigned Arc Eggs. Our main character is Amu, a girl with 3 Shugo Chara that hatched from her heart. Let's unpack that. Within every child, there lies a heart egg, and when the child starts to explore their identity, the egg emerges. Should they believe in themselves, then the egg will hatch into a Shugo Chara, a representation of who they want to be. It comes from character. This is how Amu met Ran, Miki, Sue, and Daya, 4 different sides of her that she'd like to express. That is not what happens at Sei Arcana, where instead, students are assigned arc eggs which might hatch into a Shugo Chara, but when they do, it's likely they're incompatible, causing many children to feel that they're useless. This sets up the first primary conflict of the series. If the Shugo Chara represent our dreams, then what does it mean to have one assigned to you? We'll get back to that later. As Amu settles in at school, she meets a girl in her dorm room named Kokage Kurumu. The lack of presence gives Amu a scare, which Kurumu is already used to. You see, Kurumu isn't very popular, and she doesn't have many friends. Amu made a big splash showing up with 3 Shugo Chara, so she's well known across school. But barely anyone recognizes Kurumu. Between their gap in popularity, there's a lot of room for envy. That's the basic setup, so let's get into the first arc. The series' first major arc is the Arcana Games, a school-wide sports festival. This arc introduces us to the leaders of the 4 dorms, 4 students who have mastered their Shugo Chara. I'm gonna keep saying Chara, but do know I definitely meant to say Chara last time. I'm so sorry. Amu's dorm leader is a refined girl called Erito Rose, which is a pretty on-the-nose name, but her Shugo Chara is the flowery fairy Rosetta. Despite seeming compatible, the two can't seem to get along. Rosetta never follows her commands, leaving Rose frustrated. At a pivotal point in the games, Rose yells at her Shugo Chara, causing its egg to close shut. This is known as an X egg. When a child rejects themselves, their egg remains outside of them and is marked with an X. With enough time, it will hatch into an X character, which starts wreaking havoc out of despair. This is what's happening to Rosetta, so Amu rushes to the scene to take care of it. In contrast to Rose, when a child is receptive to their own desires, they can embrace their Shugo Chara and transform. This is what Amu does with Ran to become Amulet Jewel Heart, and with a special attack, she purifies Rosetta, restoring her original form. Now, this is usually when the Shugo Chara and the character make up, but Rosetta doesn't go back to Rose. In fact, this is not Rosetta at all. This Shugo Chara is called Annabelle, and she doesn't belong here. Annabelle says goodbye to Rose and disappears, marking the end of the Arcana Games arc. Making a sequel is hard, and up until now I've only had praise for Jewel Joker, but to understand its strengths and failures, we have to understand what the first series explored. First of all, the relationship between Shugo Chara and identity. It all begins with the egg that lies in a child's soul. This egg is drawn as a blank white surface with a golden heart. representing the blank and unknown nature of a child's identity. Major spoilers for the first series, but they spend a lot of time chasing a shining egg believed to be the embryo, a miraculous wish-granting MacGuffin. But in the end, they find out that the shining egg belongs to a child who simply never got to express themselves. Those years of repression have built up into an egg that had the potential to be almost anything. So what would it mean to prepackage this and to use identity as a resource? The reveal that the ARC eggs are stolen paints the Academy in a pretty bad light, but this is in line with the show's distrust for institutions. The entire first series pits Amu against evil teachers, evil music producers, and evil teenagers being coerced by evil adults. It's not a subtle theme and one of the bolder parts of the manga. But while Jewel Joker is a clear advance on one front, in others, it takes several steps back. You'll notice I haven't brought up much of the cast, and that's because they're not great. Outside Amu and her roommate, most of the characters are one note, without any distinct or memorable moments. The first series had the Guardians, charming Tadase, graceful Nadeshiko, childish Yaya, and the cool Kukai. Each of them had their own relationship to Amu that highlighted different sides of her. Jewel Joker has the dorm leaders. There's Rose, who disappears after this chapter, Kiyomi, whose name I just learned, the twins, whose names I won't learn, and this random background character who's replaced by Tadase a few chapters in. Out of the 5, only the Spade leader, Kiyomi, had any moments that I laughed at. He's a very strict character who terrifies those around him. As a result, he's often ignored in interactions, which seems to bother him more than it should. The twins are written to be quite playful, but I only remember them because it's twice as many characters as you'd expect to see in a panel. While this might come off a little mean, I'd argue that Peach Pit is fully aware how little these characters add to the story, as they quickly reintroduce all of our past favorites. Amu's love interests are back, her best friends are back, and pretty soon you're just reading Shugo Chara with a few extra characters. The only new additions I do support are Nia, the school principal, and Amu's roommate, Kurumu. When Amu purified Rosetta, her transformation changed. Normally, she'd become Amulet Heart, but this time, she became Amulet Jewel Heart. This is due to the presence of an Arcana jewel in the room, the Heart's Grail. Within each of the school dorms lies a special jewel with an unknown power. While it's said that gathering all 4 will reveal great wisdom, no one has been able to achieve this so far. But shortly after that incident with Rosetta, the Heart Grail goes missing. The culprit behind this is the mysterious Mirage Lynx, a ghostly figure who strikes in the night and collects the jewels. Does anything about that sound familiar? When Amu joined the academy, the principal assumed she had 3 Shugo Chara, so she decided to keep her 4th one a secret. Meet Daya, a cute idol-like character who represents her desire to shine. It's a lot deeper than that, but we already made an hour-long analysis, so check that out if you want to know more. While Daya was hiding in her dorm room, she met Amu's roommate Kurumu, the lonely ghost girl who collects mirrors. Daya was curious about this habit, and Kurumu was happy to explain. She stated that she often feels invisible, so she uses mirrors to remind herself that she's there. Each of them is quite sparkly, which also represents a desire to shine. So Daya encourages her to believe in her spark, since deep down, everyone has one. Kurumu states her desire to be more like Amu, who stands out and expresses herself freely. While she doesn't feel they can be friends, Daya has a plan to ensure it, and the two begin planning Amu a surprise party. The theft of the Heart Grail leads to increased patrols, which Amu takes on with the other dorm leaders. There's not much of intrigue here apart from returning characters such as Rima, the comedy-loving tsundere, and Nagi, a boy who was raised as a girl and switches freely across genders. Both have quite intensive history, so check out the first video. Didn't have a mic then, but it's still pretty good. However, this arc does bring Amu's male love interests into focus: Tadase, Ikuto, and Nia. Tadase and Ikuto are the original bad boy, good boy duo of the first series. At the start of Jewel Joker, Ikuto was abroad, so Nia stepped in to take his place. He's a flirty guy who does makeup and pushes Amu's boundaries. It's hard not to feel he's a rehash of Ikuto. What frustrates me more is that the team is fully aware of how inappropriate this dynamic comes off, both with Ikuto and Nia. I get that it's a bad boy fantasy, but I do worry about his depiction long term. Mirage Lynx is a cat-like figure, so both boys are initially suspects, but Nia's cleared pretty fast when he and the Mirage are in two places at the same time. So the next suspect is Ikuto, only for Ikuto to appear in the exact same room as Mirage Lynx. So what's going on? Well, that's when Jewel Joker starts getting really good. Within the series, guardian eggs tend to disappear when a child grows up, representing the harsh pressures of adult society, crushing individual expression. While adults are capable of rekindling childhood interests, their Shugo Chara don't come back. I theorize this is partially because adults are more capable of embodying their desires without the external help of Shugo Chara, but to my knowledge it's never fully explained. So, Ikuto had a pretty troubled childhood, and as a result, his Shugo Chara Yoru was a playful cat, an expression of the childhood freedom he never got to express. At the end of the series, Ikuto is doing much better, so Yoru disappears. But where did he go? Well, he went to the egg cradle. The cradle is a kind of heaven where Shugo Chara lived. Amu went there in the final volumes of the manga, but it's somewhat retconned. JJ is quite a mess continuity-wise. There's a whole video about that. But somehow, the principal at Sei Arcana is able to steal eggs from the egg cradle and turn them into arc eggs. So when Yoru wakes up, he finds himself in the hands of a stranger, Kurumu, a lost and timid girl who wants to shine. Together, they transform into Mirage Lynx, and using her abilities, Kurumu steals the Arcana jewels. She tells herself this is for Yoru's sake, but I doubt she believes that. There's also a subtle and cruel twist revealed when we learn more about Kurumu's true desires. Shugo Chara is a story obsessed with symbolism, and if the first series symbol was the diamond, then Jewel Joker's is the mirror. Kurumu finally finishes planning the surprise party for Amu, but when Amu comes back to her room, she barely notices her. She's been so busy chasing Mirage Lynx that Kurumu's appearance startles her. As she steps back in surprise, she breaks the mirror Kurumu had made her, and with it, the idea that the two of them could be friends. Up until now, Kurumu had been working up the courage to speak to her, but now, the idea they could be together is shattered, quite literally. Kurumu can tell that Amu is busy, that she has other friends, so she concludes that girls like her and girls like Amu can't get along. Amu is one of the lucky ones, something Rose said too when she lost her Shugo Chara. But what does this line even mean? Kurumu does have a Shugo Chara, or at least she did. As a kid, Kurumu loved dressing up in the mirror. She saw mirrors as magic that could transform her into anyone. While she privately loved her own image, at school she felt unseen, and began to confirm her existence through the use of mirrors. While she'd started to hate her image, she worked hard to encourage herself, and one day her guardian egg appeared. A pretty egg with a small mirror on it. Just then, the principal of Sei Arcana scouted her, and she never saw her egg again. The mirror egg represented her true desires, to be seen, but the arc egg made that impossible, by turning her into someone else. This is how Kurumu copes with her self-hatred. After Amu broke the mirror, she gave up on being herself and rebranded as Amu, becoming that girl's reflection. The new look brought her praise, but that wasn't enough. Amu still said it didn't suit her. She couldn't see Kurumu through this disguise. Desires lie beyond the image. This is one of the strongest messages of the series, and one that's paramount to understanding its symbolism. Take Amu. One of her Shugo Chara is Ran, a tiny cheerleader. Does this mean she wants to be a cheerleader? No, the desire lies beyond the image. What the cheerleader represents is open self-expression. That's why the first thing Ran does is help Amu confess her feelings, because Amu wants to express herself openly, and her Shugo Chara visually represent that desire. When Amu transforms with Ran, they become Amulet Heart, a form that embodies Amu's acceptance of her desires, and in this form, Amu can fly, because now she is free. This is the level of thematic cohesion behind all of the first series transformations, and the lack of that depth is part of why JJ's cast is somewhat lacking. But there is hope. Kurumu's transformation, both personally and with Yoru, represent a mismatch between her desire and her actions. Kurumu hates feeling unseen, but in becoming Amu's reflection, she guarantees that she will remain so. When she transforms with Yoru, she becomes a reflection of Ikto, the person who Yoru is looking for. Both of these forms are reflections of someone else. In a tragic irony, Kurumu has become the mirror, incapable of being anything but someone else. This is what makes her the most interesting character of the sequel. She ties in so well with the themes of identity and the ways institution can sand out individuals to suit specific roles. I predicted where the story was going last time, so this video's prediction is that the greater story will say a lot about the school system as an institution. Sei Arcana reinforces hierarchy among its students based on whose arc egg is hatched, and it also has its own controlled economy, even assigning its students eggs. This turns individual expression into a resource to be tapped, and children into tools to use for adults' greater good. Despite my praise, is this manga worth reading? I don't think so. The monthly experience is rewarding to new readers who want a mystery at a boarding school, but put next to the original, the difference is quite clear. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone who enjoyed the manga a little too much. If you're a bit of a magical girl nerd like me, you probably will be disappointed, though I'm eager to hear everyone's thoughts and I truly do hope we could all enjoy this manga. Let me know what magical girl manga you guys are reading and what you'd like to see in the future. I have a lot of exciting plans, but I will have to share those later. So I will see you guys in my next video.